When you say to yourself that you would like to learn how to program or learn web development, a lot of people will suggest to get your feet wet, go see FreeCodeCamp. And that's what we're going to do in this video. We're going to go through the responsive web design certification. We're going to go through the course as if we're learning it for our first time, but we're also going to add in some extra knowledge that you may want to get out of FreeCodeCamp. So that way you're able to digest everything and maybe understand just a little bit more if you had somebody explain these things here to you as we're going through the journey of learning. So let's go ahead and get started with the FreeCodeCamp. All right, so once you signed in, this is where I'm going to be going. I'm going to go to the responsive web design certification. And once I click in here, it looks like we have a couple courses that we can go through. And I'm going to go ahead and start with this CatPhotoApp. And just based off of the project, it looks like this one is 71 steps. So let's go ahead and go through them. I will have this video chaptered out, so if you are good on step 1, you can go to step 2, or you can just go to whatever chapter that you would like to visit when we're going through this FreeCodeCamp tutorial of Learn HTML by Building a Cat Photo App. So I'm going to go to step 1 here, where we're just going to start that project. And it says on here, this is what we're going to build. Now, it's something very simple, very basic. There's no CSS. Looks like that goes along with this. And these are just HTML elements that are putting this together. So whenever we're coming up on the document, and again, FreeCodeCamp is very much project-driven learning when it comes to making these things. And they do give you some good instructions in here. As you can see, we have an index.html file, and then we have HTML tags at the top, and then we have a body. Now, anytime we are going to be developing and learning, anything that you want to visibly see on the page is going to happen in the body. All right. And that's why right here, line 3, this is almost like a code editor a little bit. This is the body tag. And then inside the body, we have this H1 tag. Now, it says in here that the HTML elements have an opening and closing tag. And that's very true. There's some elements that are open and closed. There's also some elements that are just one without a closing, right? But anyways, HTML elements have an opening and close, like the H1. Notice that we have an opening, which is right here. And then we also have the closing tag, which is right here. Now it says the text, this is the text element, will display what is on the opening and closing tag. So any words that we put in between these tags here will display and show up. And when it comes to heading tags, and I don't know if this project has more to it, I'm assuming it does, which is we have 6 levels of tags, H1 through H6. Let's see what it wants us to do. It says change the text of the H1 element below of Hello World to CatPhotoApp. So I'm just going to copy this, and I'm going to select the inside here. I'm going to delete the hello. I'm going to delete the world. And notice that my sheet over there on the right-hand side is set up with an automatic preview. And then I'm just going to go ahead and paste that in there. And it says when you're all done, go ahead and click on the button that says check your code. So I'm going to go ahead and check the code. We get confetti, and looks like we're able to move on to the next round. So let's see what is next. All right, so we're on to step 2 here. And yeah, it does tell us here about the H1 through H6. H1 through H6 are heading elements. They're used to signify importance of the content below. And the lower the number, the higher the importance. So an H1 is more important than an H2, H3, and so on. And as we're going through this, you can see here, this is what the H1s look like, H2s. And again, just pointing out for the beginners out there that we have this concept of an opening tag, and then we have an ending tag, right? So that's what I wanted to make sure that you guys know here with this. And then it says you want to only use the H1 element once per page. Very important for this. And then you want to place the lower important headings below the higher ones throughout your document. Below it says there's an H1 element. Okay, that's the one that we just got done doing. And then the H2 element, we want to put in the cat's photo. So usually when you're utilizing a code editor, and we'll see if it happens on this one as well, is if you start typing out the tag name and hit the tab, it usually gives you opening and closing. So let's see if that works on here. So we want H2. The H2 tab does not work. And so we're just going to have to manually type these in. I always tell my students whenever we're doing this, before you start typing any words in between the tags, you want to finish an opening tag and a closing tag before you start typing the words that you'd want to be put in there. Because when you start adding more and more elements, then that's when things get a little crazy, because you could totally forget this closing H2 tag and your code's going to be ruined. So get in the good habit of whenever you open and have an opening tag, go ahead and make sure that you close it as well. So it says on here that we want to put cat photos in there. So I'm just going to paste that here, check our work. Congratulations. And you can see that with that H2, it goes right below it. It's stacked in order like a Word document does. And then it's also the H2. Notice that it comes with some pre-styles to it. It's still got that bold effect, but it's a lot smaller in importance as far as how large that font is. And that's all out of the box without doing any kind of CSS. So it looks like it's good. Let's go ahead and submit, and we'll move on to the next one. Step 3 of the CatPhotoApp from FreeCodeCamp is going to be introducing us to a new element that we can use on our HTML document page called the paragraph element, or shortened is the P element. And what this will do, you'll see here, we'll do an opening tag of the P. And just like I told you earlier, let's go ahead and make that closing tag, because it just makes it so much easier to know that it's closed. And inside here, we're going to put this inside of our paragraph tag. So everyone loves cats. Now, one of the nice things about the paragraph tag is it automatically adds a little bit of margin that you see on the top and on the bottom, as well as the left and right. Makes the font with a standard type, right? Meaning that we're not getting bold on there. It's not a header. This is a paragraph. And if we were to add another paragraph, we could totally do more P tags. And I'm sure along the way, we're going to see that in demonstration here. But just know that if you are going to put text on your page here for people to read in a paragraph format, most likely you're going to be utilizing P tags. Sometimes people use div tags, but we haven't even got to that part yet here with the FreeCodeCamp. So let's go ahead and check our results here. Congratulations, we passed. Let's move on to the next step. All right. So step 4 in FreeCodeCamp's CatPhotoApp, it tells us that we would like to add a comment. Now, it tells us a little bit about commenting up here. So commenting allows you to put anything that you really want on the page, but it will ignore it. Okay, so commenting allows you to leave messages without affecting the browser's display. So it's like it ignores the comments. It also allows you to make code inactive. So sometimes you may want to remove a piece of code to see what it would look like. And just to demonstrate that to you, if I comment this out right here, the cat photos, you'll notice that the cat photos H2 disappears. Okay, so it's a way to make code not be executable. Now, I did this with a keyboard shortcut on here. It does allow it. Most like Visual Studio Code, if we're utilizing it, it would be for Windows users a Control/, or if you're utilizing a Mac, it's going to be Command/, and that will get you to be able to toggle on and off the commenting in HTML. So notice that when I did do this on here, that it added this less than sign along with an exclamation mark with 2 dashes, and then it added the 2 dashes over here, and it almost looks like an arrow, right? Left and right. Again, commenting can allow you to comment out code so it doesn't get executed or read by the browser. And it also allows us to add things to us as developers. Maybe we want to add a to-do list or explain some sort of code, or as a student, perfect example, to take notes, right? Hey, this is a paragraph tag and what a paragraph does, right? And in this example here, it says it wants us to add a to-do and says to-do, add a link to the photos. Put this comment above the P element, so on line 5 above here. And I'm going to go ahead and use my command slash or control slash on the keyboard. And I'm going to type to-do, colon, and then it says it needs to have the add link to cat photos. So let's go ahead and check our work, see if it works. Congratulations, it says, and we're able to move on to the next part. So commenting, very valuable tool to use as a developer. You'll use it a lot. Memorize that keyboard shortcut, especially if you're going to be utilizing Visual Studio Code in the future. Okay, so on to the next. All right, so step 5 in the FreeCodeCamp CatPhotoApp, it does bring in a new tag for us to use. Now, this tag doesn't really do anything for us visually, okay? And we are introducing here the main element, okay? So it says on here, the main element is used to represent the main content of the body of the HTML document. So this needs to go inside the body, obviously, and then content inside the main element should be unique to this document and should not be repeated in other parts of the document. So it's saying, hey, we only need to have one main tag on here. And the documents actually tell us from like W3 schools or MDN docs, it says that this element must not be a descendant of an article tag, an aside tag, footer, header, nav, and so on. All right. So I know we haven't got to talking about it quite yet with FreeCodeCamp here, but I'm sure we will. So it says, and here's the example code. You're seeing that the main is wrapping the H1 and the P tag here. So we have an opening right here and then a closing tag right there. And so all it's asking us to do is identify the main section of the page by adding the main opening tag before the H1. So that's where we're going to put that. And then we want to put it at the end of the closing tag of the P. So essentially we're just putting a wrapper around this. So we're just going to do main, and then we're going to come down here and add the closing tags. Okay, so just do /main. And let's make sure that is in view for you. So the two things that I added on here is the top main on line 3. And then I have the closing tag right here on line 8. All right, let's go ahead and check the code, see if this works. Congratulations. We are ready to move on to the next step. All right, so step number 6 in the CatPhotoApp with FreeCodeCamp. It says in the previous step, we've put together an H1, we put together an H2, and we also have a paragraph element. We wrap this all in a main element. Now, when we wrap things, we want to nest them. So it says that this is called nesting. So nested elements should be placed with 2 spaces further to the right of the element that is nested in. And the spacing is called indentation. Okay. So it makes it easier for us to read. The browser really doesn't care, but for us, it makes it a lot easier to read if they are properly indented. And what it's getting at here is, it says, here's the example code. It has main tag, right? And we have an H1 and a P tag. Now, visually, we can see that the main tag is wrapping these because we have indented these 2 elements. Now, a lot of times when you're utilizing like Visual Studio Code, for example, they have auto formatters, they have extensions that kind of do this stuff for you, but it's just teaching you that it's proper for you to nest these elements. And so if I scroll down here and what it's talking about, what it wants us to do, it says on your keyboard, add 2 more spaces in front of the P element so that it is indented properly as well. So it's saying go in front of the P tag here and add a couple spaces to it, because as of right now, if I were to draw this little line here, you see how the P element, the P tag, is outside of that line. Now, it's not going to change your code any, so don't worry about that, but it's just for human readability. So if I add 2 more spaces here, notice that they're all aligned perfectly, and we can go ahead and check the code. And FreeCodeCamp might better word this, because I do see a lot of confusion when we were searching for FreeCodeCamp videos, that this was one of the popular ones that was asked, was how do I get past step 6? So I'm going to go ahead and check the code here, and congratulations, we are ready for the next one. So step 7 inside of the CatPhotoApp for FreeCodeCamp, it says that we need to add an image element. Now, something that I did want to point out here in the notes, it says here that the image element has an opening tag without a closing tag, and this element is known as a void element. So this is one of the crazy elements out there that does not require you to have a closing tag. It just requires an opening tag only. So sometimes students will go ahead and type in the image tag img element, and they put a closing tag on there. So it's not needed, not necessary, doesn't do any justice. So all we need to do in order to complete this task here, it says add the img element right below the paragraph element. And at this point, no image is going to be shown in the browser. And that's because we're going to be adding some attributes most likely to this image. It takes a couple of attributes that go inside of it. So maybe that's what we're going to be doing next. Let's see. So I'm going to go ahead and check the code here. Congratulations, we're ready for the next one. Step 8 of the FreeCodeCamp CatApp here. And what it says here, it says HTML attributes have special words to be used inside of a tag. This is used to control the element's behavior. So in our case here, the image tag has an attribute that we can type in there, the src, that's short for the source, and we will provide it with a URL. So in this example here, the img element, the image element, has a source attribute pointing to a FreeCodeCamp logo. So you can see here that inside the image tag, we're going to be asked to put an src equals. So that's going to be important. So we want src inside here. Let me go ahead and scroll up. And we do want to set that equal to something. Now, whenever we're utilizing an image source and we're providing it with a URL, notice that we're also putting these double quotes on here. So this is where we're going to put it. Now, the text editor here, just like in Visual Studio Code, did give me double, and I do need those, right? So that's opening quotes and closing quotes in order to finish this. And it says inside the image element, add that source attribute to the URL and supply it with this, right? So we're going to go ahead and put that in there, paste it in there, and notice that we get a nice little cat image to show up here. And now I'm going to go ahead and check the work. And congratulations, we are ready for the next one. All right. Now, more attributes could be put in here. Not sure if they're going to go through it or not. Maybe. We'll see. All right. Let's move on to the next step. All right. Step 9, CatPhotoApp for FreeCodeCamp. It says on here that all image elements should have an alt attribute. Now, the alt at is used by screen readers to improve accessibility and be able to be displayed as an alternate text of if that image fails to load. So I'm going to show you if the image fails to load, how that alt tag might show up. And when it talks about screen readers, it's for the people that will have a mouse that they are relying on the mouse to hover over items on the page and have a screen reader kind of talk about what did their mouse hover over. So that's what the screen readers are designed for, is for the visually impaired people that will visit a website. So in here, it gives us some example code. So we already have the source, all right? So we don't need to handle that anymore, but we can either go on the right side or the left side of our SRC. The important thing here is that it needs to be inside of the image tag. And so it says add an alt attribute. So I'm going to do alt. I'm going to set that equal to, and again, we're going to have to use the double quotes here. Notice that it puts 2 of them on there for us, and we need to paste this sentence in here. So I'm just going to go ahead and paste it right there. Now, again, we're not seeing anything visually on it. If I had a screen reader, we could hover over this image and it would read that alternate sentence that we put inside here. Okay. Now, how can we see this? It says that it's used to display if the image happens to be broken. I'm just going to add an S to the end of this, and you can put any letter you want on there. But notice that I do get a broken image. And then I also get the alternate text that we just got done putting inside here. All right. So that is what we're going for when we're trying to add the alt attribute or the alternate attribute when it comes to images. So I'm going to go ahead and put that back to a JPG, and I'm going to go ahead and click check the code, and notice that we get congratulations. We're ready for that next step. All right. Let's move on. Step 10, CatPhotoApp inside FreeCodeCamp. It says in here that you can use a link to another page by utilizing an anchor element. All right, that's the A tag. And here's an example linking to freecodecamp.org. Notice that we do have the A tag, it's opening. We also have a closing one. And then we have this right here, which is the hyperlink reference. And this would be the URL to go. Now, sometimes we can wrap these A tags, these link tags here. So we can put text in between here. We can put it around an image, right? So maybe if eventually we might be wrapping this image in an anchor tag to go somewhere, or we might be putting some text inside there. Now it does say on this little note here that add an anchor element after the paragraph that links to this following URL. At this point, we're not going to see anything in the preview. All right, so that's fine. We're just going to start off with the A tag. Okay, and again, I'm stressing that point of if there's an opening and it gets a closing tag, then make sure you type that out first. We're not going to put any text in between here, but inside the very first anchor tag, we want that href, that link reference there, and we want to use the double quotes. And inside there, we're going to paste in the URL that they're wanting us to point to. Now, again, anchor tags are very useful for linking to other pages. And again, I don't know if this course is going to talk to us about providing us with anchor tags to different sections in the single page document here to scroll down to. Multiple ways to utilize the anchor tag, but let's go ahead and check the code, see if that's what they wanted. Looks like we got a congratulations, and we're ready to move on to step 11. All right, so step 11 here is asking us to now put the text in between our anchor tags. So in between here, the greater than or less than sign here, in between opening and closing is where we want to put the text. So it says add cat photos here, and notice that we do have the ability with our new mouse pointer, indicating that it is a hyperlink, and we're able to click on it. And essentially, we would be going to this website. Now, again, I don't know if we're going to be adding extra attributes on here to open up a new tab, for example, and all of that is handled inside of the anchor tag as well, if you're looking to open it up in a new tab rather than in the browser. So what I'm going to do is just going to check the code here, and we get the congratulations, and we're ready to move on to the next one. On step 12 in the FreeCodeCamp CatPhotoApp, it is telling us that we need to add the words "see more," and then we want to put that before the anchor element. And then in our gallery, we want to put after this anchor tag. Now, one of the things that you may want to note on this is that when we have this anchor tag, it allows us to, in my mind here, is highlight a certain word that we would like to put a link on, and then it allows us to have the ability to put words on the left and the right of it that aren't hyperlinked. And so that's the result that we're going to get from doing this. And another thing to note with the anchor tag, we have different types of elements. We have block elements, we have inline elements, and there's also in some cases where we want an inline block. And what's the difference? And usually, like right here, we have this paragraph tag that we see right here. This is a block level element by default, meaning that the next element that comes into play here is this A tag. And notice that we have the closing P, right? It's a block element. It's moving to the next line. Notice that the image right here and the anchor tag that we placed, they're stacked on top of each other here in our code, but they're shoved right next to each other. And so that's an interesting topic on its own, but just know that there's going to be some elements that will stack naturally left and they don't go to the next line. And then we also have ones that do go to the next line. Let's go ahead and finish up this step here. And it's wanting us to put the words "see more" right before the anchor tag. And you can see that it's added right there, all in line for us. And then the last part here is in our gallery and it wants it after. Okay, notice that we're not inside of the anchor tag itself. Okay. All right, no punctuation needed for this. And let's go ahead and check our code. Congratulations, we're ready to move on to the next. So step 13 in the CatPhotoApp with FreeCodeCamp, it tells us that we want to add P tag. We want to add a P tag and turn the "see more" and then with the link here to a paragraph. And so one of the things that I want you to notice is, and I was hoping that this lesson would go this route, is like very rarely, if anything, are we going to see just text hanging around, not inside of any element. Now, if we were to look at this from a whole, yes, it's inside of an element, it's inside the main element, but usually we see either a div tag, right? Or we see things like a paragraph tag, and it wants us to add a paragraph tag to this. So right now you'll see that it's butt up right against the image. As soon as we encapsulate this with a paragraph tag, and what do I mean by that is we're going to put this with a P up here, and then we're going to encapsulate it with an ending paragraph tag here. You're going to see that the text with "see more cat photos in our gallery" no longer is it in line with the image, and that's because the paragraph tag by default is a block element. It's going to take up the entire space of the from left to right, shoving the image down to the next level. Okay, so anyways, let's go ahead and check up the results, and it looks like we passed. Perfect. Let's move on to the next. All right, step 14, CatPhotoApp, FreeCodeCamp, is it says turn the existing cute cats into an anchor element. And so a couple buzzwords here. Basically what it wants us to do here is make this cute cats clickable as a link, and it provides us with the URL that it would like us to go to. Okay, so that's really what we're doing here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of the cute cats. On a Mac keyboard, I'm going to do Command X. On Windows, you can do Control X. That will cut it, put it on our clipboard. And this allows us to go ahead and start our anchor tag, and that's going to be the anchor here. It needs an href, and then we're going to set that to an empty quote for right now. And then again, I told you that one of the main things that I'd like to practice before we start making this text super long is let's go ahead and close it off. And then the text that we want to put in here after we actually close off the A tag is we want to put the cute cats here. Okay. So notice that I'm encapsulating the cute cats inside of the anchor tag. All right. Now the href, that's where we're going to stick this URL, and we're going to simply copy that and put it here. All right. So hopefully that made sense. Let's go ahead and take a look. Notice that we did get that little hyperlink here that they're online. We're going to check the code, and we get congratulations, ready for the next one. All right. So a couple buzzwords there that might have been confusing, but it's nothing that we haven't seen before. All right. On to the next. All right. In this one, step 15 of the CatPhotoApp from FreeCodeCamp, we're looking at the definition here of the target attribute. All right. So it's letting us know that we can add another attribute on our anchor tag and have it open up in a new tab or window. Now, by default, it opens up in the same window. And so sometimes you may want to click on a link and it opens up a new tab. And for this purposes here, we can specify the target saying, hey, we want to open up a blank tab. And so let's go ahead and do that here. It gives us a little example, and it says on here that we can just apply the target equals and then the blank. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that and put it in here. Now, again, the order doesn't matter. We could put it up here, but to follow the pattern that's set by FreeCodeCamp here, let's go ahead and apply that right here for the cat photos. Again, we're not going to see anything different happen visually, but experience-wise, if you were to click on this link, it should open up a new tab for the cat photos. All right, let's go ahead and check our code. And we got the congratulations. Let's move on to the next step. All right, so we created this comment in here earlier. Now that we've actually added the link and it works properly, now it's time to remove that comment. So sometimes you'll put comments in code. You can remove them as you see fit. And once you get done with some of your to-dos, that's what we're going to do here. So let's go ahead and check that, making sure we removed it properly. And it looks like our code passes. On to the next. Step 17 for the CatPhotoApp in FreeCodeCamp. It tells us here that we've already experienced adding anchor tags to text, but we can also add them to other things. And this is what I was alluding to in a previous step, is I'm wondering if we're going to be able to add a link to a picture. And in this example here, it provides us with the anchor tag, and notice that it's wrapping the image. So that's what we want to do for this. Now it says turn your image into a link by surrounding it by the necessary element tags. It says use this URL as a reference to attach to the href attribute. So let's go ahead and do that. Again, I'm doing the opening tag here of the anchor, and then I'm coming down here and immediately closing it. Okay. Now, again, all attributes go on the opening tag of the element. And so we're going to do the href equals, and then our quotes. Notice the pattern here of FreeCodeCamp saying, make sure that we're utilizing the same things that we're learning over and over again, which is that href. And I believe that is all we need to do here. Notice it didn't say anything about opening up and a new window, so we don't need to apply a target underscore blank to it. So let's go ahead and check our code. Looks like it passes, and we are done with this step. On to the next. Step 18 of the CatPhotoApp in FreeCodeCamp. It says on here, before adding any new content, we want to take advantage of the section element. Now, some of these elements here that we're talking about, which is we have section, we also have main, they're called semantic HTML elements, and they were introduced in HTML5, and it allows us to have structure to our web page, not only for us visually as editors, but from a standpoint of Google, utilizing SEO might be important for us to include these semantic HTML elements. On top of that, it also helps break down the web page again for screen readers. So that's why we want to utilize this. And it says in here that the example code that was given, we have a section, an opening element tag up here at the top, and then we have a closing one here at the bottom. And it's just sectioning off a block of code or maybe a thought. And it says here, take your H2 comment and the P and anchor elements nested inside, and they want us to encapsulate that into a section. So up here on line 5, we're going to be doing section. So we'll just do section. And then the closing tag on this goes on line 10, and we want that to be a section on there as well. Let me go ahead and scroll up for line 10 so that we can see it. And now all we have to do is check our work. Now, usually you would see we could make this look a little bit better by utilizing our tab indentations for this, but I believe it's going to let us move on with this. With checking our code, we got the congratulations, and I believe in the next section it should clean it up a bit to make it look a little more eye-pleasing for us. Again, tab indentations mean nothing to the browser when it comes to HTML. All right, cool. We passed that one. Moving on to the next step. Step 19 of the CatPhotoApp in FreeCodeCamp, we're looking at adding a section below the existing section element. Again, this is just all about organization, all about Google SEO and the screen readers. We're just going to go down here to line 11, and we're just going to do a section here, and then we're just going to close it off. That's all it's looking for here for this one. Let's go ahead and check our code. Congratulations. Let's move on to the next. Step number 20 with the CatPhotoApp for FreeCodeCamp. It says that we would like to add in an H2 element inside the section that we just created. And inside of the H2, let's go ahead and add cat list to it. So again, what FreeCodeCamp is doing here for us is we've already talked about, we've already seen a good example of what an H2 looks like. So if you see up here on my line 6, that's where we used it before. So I'm just going to copy this and paste it. Now, the reason that I'm not typing it out is, the FreeCodeCamp editor does not allow for any type of auto completion for any kind of elements. So I'm saving time there. But instead of it saying cat photos, I want to say cat lists. And then I'm going to go ahead and check the code, see if it works, if that's what they were expecting. And we got the congratulations. Let's move on to the next step. Step 21 with the CatPhotoApp, it tells us on here that we need to add an H3 element with the text of things cats love. And again, FreeCodeCamp is reminding us that when we add a lower rank heading, which in this case we're trying to do an H, that is implied that we're starting a new subsection. So anyways, let's go ahead and grab it. We're going to go do the following. I'm going to grab the things that cat loves, and then I'm going to copy that to my clipboard. Coming down here, I'm going to do an H3, and again, practicing the closing before I enter text in here. And then I'm just pasting that on there. And notice that it comes up right here. Notice a little bit smaller. And just like what FreeCodeCamp is telling us on this step 21, is that it's implied that we're starting a new section. All right, let's test the code, see if that's what it wanted. And it says, congratulations, we're ready for the next step. Let's move on. Step 22 of the CatPhotoApp with FreeCodeCamp. We're looking at creating an unordered list element And it says we want to place this on the H3 or after the H3 element that we just got done doing in the previous step. So an unordered list, it's not going to be numbered. It's not going to be alphabetical or anything like that. Just think of bullet points as what we're going to be eventually seeing. And we need to create the first hierarchy of elements, which is going to be the unordered list, or the UL for short. So we're not going to see anything visually. Just wanted to point that out. It says note that nothing's going to be seen at this point because we need to add what we call our list item elements that will go inside of the unordered list. So UL, and then we want to close that off as well. Let's go ahead and double check to make sure that we're doing the right thing. Congratulations. And we're moving on to the next. So step 23 of the CatPhotoApp with FreeCodeCamp, we're looking at adding LI elements to our unordered list that we created. So it says the LI element is used to create a list items in an ordered or unordered list. And in this case here, it's going to be bullet points because it is unordered, right? The UL, unordered list. It gives us example code. It says, hey, if you put some LI elements in here, you will get this thing to work properly. So with the UL element, let's go ahead and nest 3 items. One is going to be catnip, laser pointers, and lasagna. Inside here, we're going to do an LI. And again, good practice to keep these closed. If you're utilizing Visual Studio Code as an editor, again, this stuff would do it for you automatically. I'm going to go ahead and add catnip, and then I'm going to hit the Enter key, and I'm just going to move on and do the next one. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to copy this, again, since I don't have any emit linting here for me. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the next one, laser pointers, and then I'm going to paste it again, and we want this to be lasagna. All right. Notice that these are bulleted points that are being added to our items here. And so this is what the code looks like. LI, it's called catnip. Let's make sure I put that in there properly. And then we have laser pointers and lasagna. So let's go ahead and check the code, make sure that it works. Congratulations. On to the next step. All right, step number 24 in the CatPhotoApp with FreeCodeCamp. It's asking us right below the unordered list to add an image of, it says lasagna. So it has a photo of lasagna here for us to use. Now, what I'm noticing, what FreeCodeCamp here is doing for us with this project-based learning is once it provides you with a good reference, which in our code, we have a good reference of an image before because we got the congratulations on it. And we want to remember that image, the image element, is a single tag, meaning that it doesn't have a closing aspect to it, okay? And we also have that attribute of SRC. We also have the other attribute of ALT. And it provides us with what goes in the SRC here and the ALT here. So I'm going to go in the code. I'm just going to do the image. And I'm going to make sure that I close off that tag there so I don't get any issues with the HTML rendering it. And as far as the source, SRC, we want to set that equal to, and again, I put it in double quotes here, and I'm going to paste that inside here. And if I look at the preview here, you'll see that there is lasagna. Let me pop this out so we can actually see it here. There is lasagna. It looks like a sub sandwich as far as that goes. And then the next thing that we want to put on here is the AL. And for the AL, we're going to do ALT. We're going to set that equal to, let me scroll up here, a slice of lasagna on a plate. And if we remember, that is for the screen readers as well as if we have a broken image. For example, if this image hosting service happens to shut down, it's going to show that broken image with the slice of lasagna as far as the text goes in lieu of showing the photo. All right. So anyways, Let's go ahead and check the code, see if it does work. And looks like we got the congratulations. We're on to the next one. All right, so we're on step number 25. It's wanting us to create an element on line 19 here. We're going to call it figure. It's a figure element. And what the figure element really does here for us is it's a self-contained content element, allows us to add, and I'm sure we're going to be doing this in the next step, is another element called fig caption for us to caption the photo to show what that photo is about. That's why we would want to use that. But anyways, to complete this step here, we're just going to do figure, and then at the end of this, we're also going to close it off with the closing tag of figure, right? And let's go ahead and check the work, making sure that it's what they wanted. Looks like it is. We're not going to visually see anything happen on the photo itself, but we will see it in the next step of what it wants us to do. All right. Step 26 in the CatPhotoApp for FreeCodeCamp, we're looking at adding a caption called fig caption, exactly what I told you in the previous one. But this element will be used to add a caption to describe the image, and this is the one that's actually going to be visual for us to actually see. And then here's an example. They wrapped the figure element around an image, and then they added the fig right underneath. Okay, so it says after the image, go ahead and add the fig caption and put in there cats love lasagna. So this is where I'm going to scroll down just a little bit. I'm going to grab this here because it should be a good working example. And right here, I'm going to paste it instead of a cute cat, because you can see that it showed up here, cute cat. We want to put in there cats love lasagna. And you can see that it shows up there. Make sure we add the period. And then we're going to take a look at our results here. Yeah. All right. Congratulations. We're moving on to the next one. All right. We're in the step number 27 with the CatPhotoApp with FreeCodeCamp. And this part here, it's asking us to utilize the EM element or the markup for it. And we want to place it on the love, and that's in the fig caption that we see here. So basically what it's asking us to do is we want to delete this here, and I'm going to put EM, and then I'm going to put the closing tag of EM. And now I can go ahead and put love back in there. And notice that right there where it says cats love lasagna is italicized. Now, one of the other interesting things that the EM or the emphasis does for us, when it comes to screen readers, they will actually pronounce the word that are wrapped in EM with a little more emphasis, utilizing a verbal stress. That's an interesting fact of why we may want to use this as well for the visually impaired. I believe that's what that's asking for us to do here with it. And since we only wanted to wrap the word love, let's go ahead and check our work. And we got the congratulations. We're ready to move on to the next step. So step 28 with the CatPhotoApp in FreeCodeCamp, we're looking at adding an H3 element below the figure element that we just got done closing. And inside there, we wanted to say top 3 things that cats hate. All right, let's go ahead and do that. That should be a real quick one for us to do. We're just going to do H3, again, closing tags, and inside, we're just going to type out the top 3 things cats hate, colon. All right, I think that's it. Notice that we do have it down here. That looks good. Let's check our code. And we got the congratulations. Let's move on to the next one. Step 29 of the CatPhotoApp with FreeCodeCamp. What we're looking at here, it says the code for an ordered list is the OL. So remember before we utilized a UL, and inside the UL we had something called list items. So for this one to work, we have to start off with the OL. That's going to be an ordered list. That's going to give us numbers 1, 2, 3, and so on based upon how many things are inside of that element. So it says below the H3 element, go ahead and list these 3 items: flea treatment, thunder, and then other cats. Pretty simple. And we got an example that we've done before. We have a UL. So instead of a UL, we're going to do an ordered list. And I'm going to just grab this right here just as a reference. I'm going to actually bring it down here. And because we have 3 things here, we've used 3 things before to help save on a little bit of typing, but still have that same sort of structure, just to show you that we can utilize previous examples and refactor them down below. The UL, so instead of the UL, we need this to be the ordered list. So we're going to do OL, and I need to change the bottom one as well. There's our ordered list. And notice that if I come down here, I automatically get the 1, 2, 3 automatically instead of the bullet points that I had before. So that's cool. But let's take this a step further so that way we can get the check mark for this being done. The first one's going to be flea treatment. So I'm just going to paste that there. The next one is thunder. So I'm going to put that here. And then the last one is other cats. And I'm going to place that here. All right, looks like that should be what they were wanting. Let's check the code. Congratulations. We're done with this step of 29. Let's move on to the next one. Step 30 with the CatPhotoApp in FreeCodeCamp. It just says that after the ordered list, let's add another element, and it's going to be the figure. Again, we've seen this before. Figure and the closing tag of it. Again, things to note on here, you're not going to see anything visually until we put more elements inside of the figure. All right, but that should give us the green check mark for it. And congratulations, we're moving on to the next one. All right, so it says inside the figure element that we just created, let's add an image element with the SRC pointing to this image that we have here. All right, let's go ahead and do that. I am a little bit intrigued on why we're not putting an alternative text on here, since we've been practicing that forever. So in here, image, we're going to do the closing part here, just to make sure that we put it in. And then we want that SRC to equal, and then this URL that they are providing us. One of the things that I will point out here, and maybe you do catch it or you don't, but we don't want to include a period. We just want the JPG aspect of it. And so if I scroll down here, notice that the browser now shows that little image. And again, we're inside the figure. I'm thinking that we're probably going to be doing another one of the fig captions to put down below, and maybe an alt tag in here as well, or an alternate attribute in here for readability. Okay, so let's go ahead and check this, see if it works. Congratulations, we passed this. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one. Step 32 of the CatPhotoApp, it's asking us to add the alternate attribute to this with the text to improve accessibility. And so I guess, I don't know why we couldn't include it in the last step, but they made this an extra step for us. So it's going to be the alt equals, and then we're going to put this in quotes, and then we just want to paste this right here to include the period on this one. And let's go ahead and check our code. Congratulations, we are good. Again, we're not going to visually see anything with this. It's for the screen readers unless we have some sort of broken image. As you can see, it shows up there. Again, let's go ahead and move on. Step 33 in the CatPhotoApp, we're looking at utilizing the fig caption. Again, nothing that we haven't seen already. Hopefully we are starting to see a pattern here in order to get this to work. So we want to do the fig caption. So let's go ahead and do it. So I'll do fig caption. And then again, I'm just going to do the open and closing tags on this. And then inside here, we're going to put in the cats hate other cats. There we go. Gave it a nice little caption down below. Let's go ahead and check our work. Congratulations, our code passes. Perfect. Moving on. So step 34 in the CatPhotoApp with FreeCodeCamp, it's wanting us to make the word hate be strong show up strong on the web page, which will essentially just make it bold. Just like we did this with the love up here with the last one, we put the love word in between the EM. If we remember that, see how we wrapped the love with an EM? Now it wants us to wrap the word hate with the element of strong. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to get rid of the hate, which is what we all should do. And we want to put strong in there. So I'm going to do strong. Again, I'm going to close it off so that way we know that we did it properly. And then inside the strong, I'm going to put the word hate. Now notice down here with the hate, we see is that we have that in bold. Okay. All right, let's take a look at what we have to do next. So step 35 in the CatPhotoApp, it's asking us to add a section element below the second section element. So this is our second section from line 11 all the way down here to 33. So basically it's just wanting us to do the following. I'm just going to do a section here with open and closing tags right here. Let's go ahead and check the code. Again, visually, we're not going to see anything. We got the congratulations. Let's move on to the next one. All right, step 36, CatPhotoApp for FreeCodeCamp. We're looking at adding an H2 element with the text of cat form. So in here, we're just going to do H2, again, close it off. And then I'm just going to come back here and type in cat form. And if I scroll down here, I should see the cat form itself. All right, let's go ahead and double check this to make sure that it is what they want. Congratulations, we're ready to move on. So step 37 in the CatPhotoApp, it's going to ask us to create a form element. Now this is going to be utilized in the form element allows us to grab user information such as their name, their email, and any other details that you may want to collect on a form. So it says after the cat form of the H2 heading, let's go ahead and add the form element. This is just going to be a very basic step, just like the ULs or the OLs. We're not going to see anything physically on the web page to say, hey, we did it correct, but we're going to put some stuff inside of this form so that way we can collect some data, okay? So in here, it's just going to be a simple form. This does get opening and closing tags. And let's go ahead and see if this is what they were looking for. Again, we're not going to see anything visually happen on there. We got the congratulations and we're ready to move on to the next step. Step 38 of the CatPhotoApp from FreeCodeCamp, we're looking at adding the action attribute to the form. And it does give us an example. It says, hey, when we submit this form, this is the URL where the browser is going to send the data that we are typing into the form. And it would like us to add an action attribute for our form that we just got done creating. And so I'm going to type in action. And then we want to set that equal to this right here. Notice I have the double quotes on there. And so then I'm just going to go ahead and paste that in there. And that's really all it's asking for on this. A form is going to collect data, and the action after we get done hitting the submit button, it will send the data to this. All right, let's go ahead and check our code. We got the congratulations. Let's move on to the next. So we're on step number 39, and it's asking us to put an input element, and this will allow us to collect data. Now, there's various types of inputs that can go on a form. I'm sure we're going to get ready to go through them here next, but right now it just wants an empty input element, and it's one of those elements that don't require a closing tag to go along with it. So we're just going to put input in here and see if it likes it. We're going to go ahead and check it out, and we got the congratulations. We're ready to move on. Again, typically we'll see a lot more information that goes inside of here, and we're not going to really see anything that could help us with the form besides we have this blank little box now on our HTML page. Let's go ahead and see what it would like us to do next. Step 40 in the CatPhotoApp with FreeCodeCamp, we're looking at adding a type to our input field. Now, just like I told you before, that there are many types that we can put in here for the input. And it can be something like a password. It can be a button. It can be just a normal text field. There's lots of options to put in here for this attribute that it wants us to do. It wants us to put in here the type, and we want to set that equal to, and eventually we're going to put the word text in here, but I just wanted to show you that if I come down here and I just type the word password instead, that if I have letters typed in here in this form, they're showing up as asterisks, right? And so with that being said, if I change this to text, then whatever I type in here, I can visually see. I don't want to save any kind of password on there, but you can visually see that it is allowing me to see it. Again, you can put a button on there for the type, but text is what they want. And I'm going to go ahead and click this button here that says check your code. And we get a congratulations, we're ready for the next step. Let's see what it's going to have us do next. So step 41 in the CatPhotoApp with FreeCodeCamp, we're looking at adding the name attribute to the input field. And one of the things that the name attribute will do for us is when we submit the form, we're able to access this data that are being stored in each one of these input fields that we're going to be creating, right? And so later on, when you learn JavaScript, and of course we go over this in our course of pulling data from a form, you're going to be able to reference it. So it's good practice to definitely put a name on here. And it says that we would like to have cat photo URL be supplied in here. So again, in double quotes, what we're going to do is we're just going to put cat photo. And later on, when we submit the form, it's going to be able to access this data that we are storing in this data field. Okay. So again, let's go ahead and check our code. And we got the congratulations. We're ready to move on to the next step. Let's go. So step 42 with the CatPhotoApp inside of FreeCodeCamp, what we're looking at doing next is adding some placeholder text to our input element that you see right here. Now, many times when you're going to a website, maybe you have a sign up or something, it will say something like email, enter email or enter password, and the text goes inside of the input field. So let's take a look at what that looks like here. And it wants us to add a placeholder text called cat photo URL. So we're just going to come in here. We're going to do placeholder. And we're going to set that equal to what it's asking us to do, which is the cat photo URL. We're going to put that right there and observe what goes on right here. We have a cat photo URL pop up. And as soon as we type anything in here, it goes away. So that's one of the benefits behind the scenes. HTML is doing this stuff for you of, hey, it's going to display a placeholder text there for you to have to give your users some help, some hints on what needs to go inside here. So anyways, let's go ahead and check our code. We got the congratulations. Let's move on to the next step. So we're on step number 43 of the CatPhotoApp of the FreeCodeCamp, and it's telling us that in order to prevent the user from submitting something on the form that could be blank on here, we want to put the keyword required on there as an attribute. So by default, this is set to false. And when we apply it to here, we're just going to put the word required. When we submit the form, it's going to check to see, hey, did this person actually fill in this input field? And so that's all we need on here. We don't need to set it equal to true. We don't need to set it equal to anything. We can just put it on there. The one thing that FreeCodeCamp is wanting us to make sure that we do is we want to put a space between the attributes. Again, we could place this anywhere on the input field itself. The order doesn't matter. It's not like saying hey, we need to put the required before the placeholder, it looks at each one of these individually. So no need for the order. Let's check the code. And we got the congratulations. We're ready to go to the next part here. Now, again, we're not visually going to see anything quite yet until we actually have a submit button on here to complete this form for it to be required before we're able to move on. All right, let's move on. So step 44 with the CatPhotoApp with FreeCodeCamp, we're looking at adding a button element that is going to give us our clickable button. And we want the text on it to say the word submit. And we want to put this below the input field, but we still are contained within inside the form. Many students, when we're building out forms and stuff, sometimes the button goes on the outside of the form by accident. They don't mean to do it. But in this case here, FreeCodeCamp has helped us out by providing us with line 38, which is still inside of the form that you see here. It just wants a button element. So we're going to do button. And again, we're going to put the closing tag on here as well. Now inside here's where we can put our text. We're going to say submit. And let's take a look down here. Notice that we have the CatPhoto URL with the placeholder text. Perfect. We have the submit button. And it just wants you to know on here that the default behavior of clicking the form without any attributes on this actually submits the form to the locations action. So remember, we defined the action up here of where all of our data is going to be sent when we click the submit button. So let's go ahead and check our code here. We got the congratulations. We're ready to move on to the next step. Let's go. So the CatPhotoApp, we're on step number 45 for FreeCodeCamp, and it says on here, even though you've added the button with the text input, they appear to be next to each other, which in fact they do. And that's because the input button, or the input as well as the button, they are inline elements. And remember, they're not block elements. They're not trying to shove each other out of the way. They're considered inline where they're able to move right next to each other, which makes that very nice. And then it says in here that we want to add the type on here. So if I go to the button and I add the word type, we want to set that equal to submit. And again, we're not going to see anything different on here. It just says we want to make it clear that it is a submit button if it wasn't already. All right, so let's go ahead, check our code, and we got the congratulations. Let's move on to the next step. So next in the CatPhotoApp with FreeCodeCamp, we're looking at step 46, which says on here, we can use the radio button for questions that we would like to have answered that would potentially have multiple options. So in this example here, they're setting the text here to cat, and we're supplying it with a radio button. And notice that it's the input here, and we're supplying the type. It's going to be radio. Now, a radio button is going to look just like a little circle with either a filled in dot or a not filled in dot. And it says, remember that the input element is a void element, which means that it doesn't have a closing tag. So before text input that we created earlier, add the radio button and set it to indoor. So for this, we're just going to do input. We're going to set the type. We're going to set that equal to radio. And then we're just going to put the closing tag on there. And again, it's a void element, so we don't need anything else. And we're going to type the word indoor. Okay, let's see what that looks like on here. Notice that we have this little pill-like option. And this is the radio button and what it looks like with default styling. All right, so let's go ahead and check our work. Congratulations, we did it. Let's move on to the next step. Step 47 inside the CatPhotoApp. We have the task of adding labels to our radio button. It says here that label elements are used to help associate text on an input element itself. And this is especially important if people that are utilizing our website needs to utilize screen readers. And here's an example code of them wrapping the input radio button that we just got done doing with a label. So we're going to do that exact same thing here. We're going to come over here to the left and we're going to do label. And on the right-hand side, we're going to close it off with the closing label part. All right. That's really all that it's asking for. Again, if we were utilizing Visual Studio Code, had the ability to format code, this would look a little bit different with the way that it is staggering it, and it might look something that looks like this in Visual Studio Code, just to make it a little more eye-pleasing. But anyways, we're going to check our code, and we got the congratulations, ready for the next step. Step number 48, CatPhotoApp with FreeCodeCamp. We're looking at adding an ID attribute to the input element that we just got done creating here. And so inside the input, we're just going to add the ID, and we want to set that equal to indoor. Now, it does go on here to mention that having multiple attributes, the order doesn't matter. That's what we've been stressing the entire time, that it doesn't matter if you put it on the left of type or if you put it on the right-hand side of type. The order doesn't matter to the browser. The only thing that matters is it needs to be inside of the containing element of input for this to work here. Okay. So again, we're not going to see anything visually happen on our web page. This is more of behind the scenes type of thing. And then it also mentions on here that each ID needs to be very unique from all other IDs on the entire page. And this is our very first ID that we're adding to anything on this. And so that way, indoor is very unique to this aspect for the form. All right. Let's go ahead and check our code, see if it gives us success. Congratulations, your code passes. And let's move on to the next step. Step 49 of building the CatPhotoApp inside FreeCodeCamp. We're looking at adding another radio button just below the first one. And we want this one to be out, all right? And this is, again, FreeCodeCamp is giving us the opportunity to take a look at the code that we've done before and refactor it to make sure that we can do it all. So it showed us how to do it in multiple steps, but this time we're combining it all into one step. And so I'm going to copy this and paste it, and then we're going to tweak it to what we need. The ID, we want to set this to outdoor. The type is still going to be of the radio. And then the text that actually gets displayed on here is going to be outdoor. We'll do out. And notice that we get this as well as this. Now, this is the problem, and I'm sure we're going to fix it in a later step, but it allows me to select both of these at the same time, and I'm assuming they want this to be an either or, and it should auto select or deselect if I click indoor or outdoor. But let's go ahead and check our code. Congratulations, we're ready for the next step. All right, so just like I told you that we're going to be able to, let me refresh this here. We're going to be able to take a look at our cat form over here, and the issue is that they both are selected, right? And in order to get rid of this, we're going to create a name attribute for each one of these, and they're going to be the same thing. And so behind the scenes in the code, the HTML browser is going to associate that as, hey, only one can be selected based upon the name group that we just gave it. In here, we're going to add the word name. We're going to set that equal to indoor-outdoor. And we're going to do the same exact thing to the one down here. So I'm just going to go ahead and paste it. And now, hopefully in the browser, we see that we can only select one of these at a time because we grouped them by the name here. So let's go ahead and check our code. Congratulations, confetti, and let's move on to the next one. Step 51 of the CatPhotoApp with FreeCodeCamp. We're looking at the indoor radio buttons as well as the outdoor radio buttons, and it wants us to add a value attribute to this. So we're going to continue on adding attributes to this. And hopefully this might be the last one for the input fields. But this is going to be more for when we're submitting the form, we want to have useful data from the actual form. And in this case here, the options, the radio button options that we would have, because they said otherwise, when we hit the submit button, we would get indoor, outdoor equals on. And that really doesn't do us any good. So we're going to create a value here, and it says set it equal to the ID. So we'll do indoor, and then over here we'll do the outdoor. Value equals outdoor. Right? We're going to go ahead and check the code here. Again, visually, we're not going to see anything. This is more from the JavaScript that we would actually see anything from what we just put in here. And we got the congratulations. We're ready to move on. All right, 72% done. Step 52 of the CatPhotoApp in FreeCodeCamp. It says that the field set element is used to group related input fields as well as labels together on the web form. Utilize the field set element, which are also block level elements, meaning that after we get done wrapping this on here, our elements that come after it should go onto the new line. Okay. So it says nest the indoor and outdoor radio buttons with a field set, and don't forget to indent the radio buttons. We're just going to come up here. We're going to do field set and then come down here at the very bottom, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to close it off. And notice that it put this little box around our indoor outdoor. It's a block level element, and it shifted it to the bottom as far as the next thing, which is the cat photo URL. So that's all on there. I'm just going to go ahead and click on check the code. Congratulations, we're ready to move on. Let's do that. Step 53 of the CatPhotoApp inside of FreeCodeCamp. It says that the legend element acts as a caption for the content of the field set. This gives the user context about what should they enter of part of that form. Inside here, line 38, we're going to go ahead and type in a legend tag. And of course, we want to close that off. And let me spell legend properly. And inside here, we want that text that says, is your cat indoor or outdoor? And so we're going to go ahead and put that there. And notice that right on top of that box, we get that HTML for that legend, where it goes right above our radio options. So let's go ahead and check our code, make sure that we're compliant with what FreeCodeCamp wants. And it says, congratulations. Let's move on. Step 54 of the CatPhotoApp is asking us to add another field set element underneath the current field set element, because we're going to be utilizing another input element. So let's go ahead and just add the field set, and let's close it off, and let's go ahead and check our code. Congratulations. And I guess the next one, we're going to add in some input fields. So let's see what they want next. Step 55 in building the CatPhotoApp with FreeCodeCamp says, add a legend element with the text, what's your cat's personality? And then we want to make sure that it is inside our second field set, which is what we have highlighted right here. So again, we already have a good working example of the legend. So we're just going to do legend and close it off. And inside here, we would like to put in this question for them to answer. And we can see that kind of populate or pre-populate down here as well. All right, let's go ahead and check the code. Congratulations. Let's move on. Step 56 with the building a CatPhotoApp for FreeCodeCamp. It says on here, forms commonly use checkboxes for questions that may have more than one answer. And for this, we can still utilize that input element. I tell you, it's like a Swiss Army knife. And we want the type of this to be a checkbox. So it says under the legend. All right, so we are under the legend. Go ahead and add an input. Make the type attribute checkbox, and then set the text to loving. So let's see what we have to do for this. So we can do something like this. We can say input. Again, it's a void element, so it doesn't deserve the closing tags. We would like to add the type. We're going to set that equal to checkbox. And then we want to apply the text to it. And here we can go ahead and type the following loving. Okay. And notice that there is a space on here that they wanted us to do. And so we see that we do have a checkbox. It has the word loving on there. Let's go ahead and check our code to see if we get the congratulations. It looks like we do. And we're on to the next one. Step 57 of the CatPhotoApp with FreeCodeCamp. We're looking at adding an ID attribute and assigning it the value loving. Pretty simple here. We're going to do ID equals loving. Again, hopefully we're seeing a little bit of a pattern with what we're doing. I'm going to go ahead and check the code. Boom. It works. Congratulations. Let's move on. 80% done. Step 58 of the Building a Cat Photo app with FreeCodeCamp. It says on here, another way to associate the input field is to utilize a label. And you can add the for attribute that will match the input's ID. Now, one of the things that what this label will do for us is, notice right now I'm clicking on the loving and it's not check marking the box here. I have to physically go over to the box and click on it. The way that we want to work this, and it may not be as clear as the instructions set forth here, because it says associate the text loving with the checks box by adding the label to it, right? And what we want to do is I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the loving, and I'm going to put our label in here, and I'm going to close it off, okay? Now, inside here, of course, I do want to put the word loving. This still doesn't do anything because we have to utilize the for attribute, okay? So instead of for breakfast, let's go ahead and do for loving. Remember, it tells us on here that the input ID, right, breakfast, it has to match the for this relationship to work. So the for has to match the ID in order to get this to work. So that's what we're doing here. If we take a look, we're trying to match the for with the ID over here for the input. And now if I click on this, notice that I do get it to toggle based upon clicking the label of it. So let's see if this is what it was looking for. Checking the code. There we go. Congratulations. Let's move on. 82% done. Step 59 in the CatPhotoApp with FreeCodeCamp, we're looking at adding a name attribute and assigning it the value personality to the checkbox that we just got done doing. So over here, we're going to go ahead and put in the name. We're going to set that equal to personality. And again, it's noting on here, FreeCodeCamp is letting us know that we're not going to notice anything in the browser, but it does make it easier for the server to process the web form, especially when there are multiple checkboxes. And again, this goes back to when we get into JavaScript or when you're learning JavaScript, is we're going to be able to grab the values off of that form and pull it in, and we're going to be able to reference it based off of the personality. Anyways, we're just going to go ahead and do this for good measure. Let's check our code. We get the congratulations, and we're ready to move on to the next. Step number 60 with the CatPhotoApp with FreeCodeCamp, we're looking at adding another checkbox to the one that we just got done adding. It says that we need to have the ID attribute to be set to lazy. The name attribute should be the same as the last checkbox. We'll make sure that it is set to personality. And then it says also the label element to the right of the new checkbox should say lazy. Make sure you associate the label element utilizing the for attribute. So a lot of stuff going on all in one thing. And as a programmer, you can break things down into individual things, just like what we did before. We're trying to include this all into one kind of step. And for me, and with students and stuff, I always say, hey, why don't we know that the first one is working, okay? Let's go ahead and copy it and tweak what we need to make it fit and make it work. If you have a good working copy, I'm just going to hit the enter key, give us a new line to deal with. Now, again, we don't want loving. The second one, the ID, it says on here, it needs to be lazy. The name attribute should be the same, which is personality. Perfect. And then the label here, we want this for to be lazy. And then instead of loving, now this is the part that actually gets displayed on here, and we want this to be capital lazy. And Notice that we now have a check mark here where we can check mark both. I would double check to make sure that you are able to click on the lazy part and it automatically check mark that. That means that for attribute that we just got done adding is working just fine. Perfect. We got a good working one. Let's go ahead and check our code. And we get the congratulations, 85% done. We're almost there. Let's keep on going. Step 61 in the CatPhotoApp with FreeCodeCamp. We're looking at adding one more here. And this time we want it to be energetic. All right. And again, we're just going to rinse and repeat, do the same exact thing that we did before. I'm going to take this input field that I know is correct. I know it's working because we tested our code. And I'm going to hit the enter key. I'm going to paste, and I'm just going to change the things that we need. ID is going to be energetic. So let's go ahead and put that in there for it. The attribute for the name is going to be the same. So it's going to be personality. And then type is a checkbox. We have that. And instead of lazy, we're going to put energetic in there, making sure that these two match. And then this one here, we want it to say energetic with a capital E because this is the one that actually gets displayed on our cat form. All right. Let's go ahead and check our code on this. Congratulations. All right. 86% done. Let's keep going. Step 62 of the CatPhotoApp for FreeCodeCamp. What we're looking at doing here says, just like the radio buttons that we saw earlier, the checkboxes need to have values as well. While the value attribute is optional, they say it's best practice to go ahead and include them with any checkboxes or radio buttons on the page. So we're going to add a value attribute to each of the checkboxes that we created. And for convenience, it says just go ahead and set the values of these checkboxes to the same value that's on the ID themselves. Real quickly, we're just going to go through each one of these and we're going to add a value. And we're going to set that equal to, matter of fact, I'm going to copy this to my clipboard so I don't have to type it again. But to value equals loving. The next one here, again, we're making sure that we're inside of the input element that we created. And the value on this is going to be lazy. And then lastly, this one is going to be energetic. So we're going to try that out, see if it works, and let's go ahead and check our code. Congratulations, we're ready to move on. Step 63 in the CatPhotoApp, and if we scroll down here, the cat form, it says that we want to add a default checked value to either the radio button as well as the check mark item there. And the way that FreeCodeCamp wants us to do in order to get a pass on this is we want to go to the very first radio button that we have, which in this case here is indoor, and we want to add this checked attribute to it. Now it mentions it on here that we don't need to assign it a default value because we already supplied a value, and if it's checked, then it's going to know what the value actually is. So let's go to the input field for our indoor. And again, order does not matter wherever we put this. We're going to put checked, and that's now going to be set to true. And notice that I can still select either, but by default, it's going to stay checked to it. Next is the check mark. So the very first one that we come to is loving. Let's go ahead and add a checked to it. And notice that loving now has a check mark. So I believe this satisfies this step. So let's go ahead and check our code. Congratulations, we're ready to move on. We're at 89% done, almost there. Let's keep going. All right, so in the CatPhotoApp for FreeCodeCamp, it says step 64, we're looking at adding a footer to the end of the page. Now, everything needs to be encapsulated in the body in order for us to visually see it on the web page. So it says the footer element is used to define the footer for the document section. The footer typically contains information about the author or document or copyright data, links, terms, conditions, contact information, and more. So lots of uses for the footer here. And again, we're just trying to organize our thoughts, organize our page, into something that is nice and organized. And so here we're just going to do footer and the closing tag here of footer. Okay. And I believe that's all it's asking. Let's go ahead and check our code. Congratulations. Let's go ahead and see what we're going to be putting inside the footer. Step 65 of the CatPhotoApp. We're going to be utilizing the P element inside there, and this is where we're going to put the no copyright FreeCodeCamp.org, and we want all this to be within the footer element that we just got done creating. So I'm just going to do a P tag here and closing it off, and then I'm going to copy and paste this so that way I know it is exactly what they're looking for without having to type. And notice that we do get no copyright FreeCodeCamp.org, and let's go ahead and check. Congratulations, 92% done. Let's move on to the next step. Step number 66 in the CatPhotoApp with FreeCodeCamp. We want to turn the existing FreeCodeCamp.org text that we see right here. We want to turn that into an anchor tag with the href pointing to the FreeCodeCamp.org. All right. We've done this plenty of times in this exercise, so I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to do either Control X on the keyboard for Windows users or Command X to copy that to my clipboard. We're going to do the anchor tag with an href in here. I'm going to set that equal to empty quotes for right now. And then I'm going to do the closing A tag before I do anything else. So inside here, I'm going to go ahead and paste in the freecodecamp.org, and the href, I'm going to use this and put it in there. All right, so if we visually take a look at it, it says no copyright, and now we have that anchor tag there, allowing us to click on this to go to freecodecamp.org. Let's go ahead and check our work. Congratulations, we are ready for the next part. We're on step 67 in the CatPhotoApp for FreeCodeCamp, and it says on here, notice that you've added everything on this page so far. Everything has been inside of the body portion, and that's what's visually getting shown to you right here. Everything in here is from the body. Now, when we talk about this next thing that it wants us to do, which is we're going to add some information to the head section, it's going to contain metadata about the web document, such as the title and maybe bringing in styles. And this stuff that we put in the head section does not get displayed to the average user. It's meant for the browser to read and take a look at and see what is this web page about? What do I need to do in order to display this page for that user? Notice that we are below the HTML tag, but above the body on this. And it just wants us to put the and again, we're just starting out here. We're going to do the head, and then we're going to open and close that. So we are still within that HTML, but above the body when it comes to this element. So let's check the code. Congratulations, we're ready to move on. Step number 68, CatPhotoApp with FreeCodeCamp. Now, in this section here, inside the head, we do get to see something visually happen in the tab. However, the way that FreeCodeCamp is working, we're not going to see if this actually works or not. But it says the title element determines what the browser will show in the title bar or the tab section of the page. It says you want to create a title element, and inside here we're going to put CatPhotoApp, and then we want to close off that title there. Again, we're not going to see anything visually, but again, if you were to do this in your own Visual Code Studio or Visual Studio Code, then you would be able to see the title of the tab kind of change. So all we have to do here is just check the code to see if it works, and there's the congratulations. All right, next one, 96% done. So in this step here, step 69, CatPhotoApp of FreeCodeCamp, it says, notice that the entire content of this page is nested with the HTML. Now, the HTML element is the root element of the HTML page, meaning that it's at the very top and it's wrapping the entire thing in there. It says that you can specify what language your page should be by adding the lang attribute to your HTML page. So it says add the lang attribute, which is short for language. So we're going to do lang, and we want to set that equal to EN for English. Let's go ahead and check our code. Congratulations, we're ready for the next one. Step number 70 here, it says that all pages should begin with the doc type HTML. This special string, known as a declaration, will ensure that the browser tries to meet the industry-wide specifications. So all I'm going to do with this, I'm going to copy this right here, and I'm going to paste it right here. And again, really doesn't do much. We may see a little bit of margins and padding kind of display on our page now that it knows that it's an HTML document. And let's go ahead and check to see. Congratulations. And go ahead and submit the code. All right. It says that we are done, 100% complete. So if you made it through this, I commend you for going through this project here with us. If you have any questions, please make sure that you write them down below. We love reading them, and subscribe for more videos like this if this really helped you out. All right. So we'll see you in the next lesson. And until next time, take care.